Section 5.4, Solving Quadratics by Factoring. I have a picture of a girl and she's thinking something, and if you can't read that, I'm going to read it to you. I'm thinking of two numbers. If you multiply my numbers, the product is 0. What are my two numbers? Well, you can't guess both of them, but one of them is fairly easy to guess, and that's the number 0. The other one, who knows? It could be anything. We're going to use the zero product rule towards the end of solving this example. So we're going to factor, because this is solving quadratics by factoring, and we're going to factor out the greatest common factor, and that's a 5x. We're going to take out the 5x, and when we take a 5 out of the 5, we get 1. I'm not going to write that because x squared, factor out an x, we are left with an x, and then we're going to bring down the minus sign, and then 5x, divide or factor out or take out a 5x, and we get 2. Now this is equal to 0. So my two factors are 5x, and we didn't have that in parentheses. We don't really need to, but I'm going to do that for emphasis here. And the other is x minus 2. Well, a is like my 5x, and b is like my x minus 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a equals 0. That is, we're going to set 5x equal to 0. I'll solve that in just a second. We're also going to set b equal to 0. It's not like the guessing game where we just have to get one. We have to get them both. So we are going to say x minus 2 equals 0. That's b equals 0, where b is x minus 2. Okay, we're going to solve these one by one. This one, we divide by 5, and 0 divided by 5 is 0. So I get x equals 0. And in this one, I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and I get x equals 2. Alright, I had a little glitch there, so I lost some of this, but here now it looks neater. So I had my two answers of x equals 0 and x equals 2, and they make sense. You could check them. Plug in x equals 0, and you'll get 0 minus 0 equals 0. If you plug in x equals 2, then you get 5 times 2 squared is 4, minus 10 times 2 is, 5 times 4 is 20, 10 times 2 is 20, and you'll end up with 20 minus 20, and that does equal 0. They both check out. Now, it's actually easier to plug them back into this form right here. If I plug in 0, I get 0 times 0 minus 2 is negative 2. 0 times negative 2 is 0. So this is called factored form right here, and this is my original standard form. Factored form is pretty easy to check. It's even easy to work from, and a lot of students miss that. So x equals 2, plug that back in, and I will get 10 times 0 equals 0. So that's just another way to check. Pretty easy way to check too. Alright, now we have a lot of examples. Some will be on this video and some on the next probably. So we're going to factor 2x squared plus 5x minus 12, and then we're going to solve that by using the zero product rule. There is no greatest common factor to factor out because there's not an x in every single term. The first term is even, but the second term is odd. So I could use the x box. Now I want, let's see, first term and last term go in these two boxes, so a 2x squared and a negative 12. Now I need the b term up here, and that's 5. And I need the a times c product down here. Now for those I don't put the x, so negative 24. And here are my new terms, and they're going to go here as well. And when they go here, you put an x. So what goes here and what goes here also is what goes there. So I need them to multiply to be 24, add to be 5. So that would be an 8 and a 3. Now they're going to multiply to be negative, so I need one of those to be negative, and that's going to be this one, because when I add 8 and negative 3, I get 5. So it doesn't matter which one goes where, but negative 3 may be there, and 8 here. And then I factor out the greatest common factor around the edges. So in this direction, an x. In this direction, it's going to be a 4. and it's positive, so that's going to be a plus. So I've already got one of my factors, and that's x plus 4. And then the other factor is going to go here. Now in this direction, a 2x and here, remember, since I have the edge term as negative, I'm going to have a negative here, and it's going to be a 3. So there's the factoring. Now we're going to set that equal to 0. Now it's time for the zero product rule. We set each one of these equal to 0 and solve. X plus 4 equals 0, subtract 4 from both sides, and I get x equals negative 4. And in this one, set 2x minus 3 equal to 0, add 3 to both sides, divide by 2, 3 halves, or 1 1/2. Okay, example 2. Now, we've got g cubed. Now, it doesn't matter which one of the letters we have. It could be an x, could be a y, any letter of the alphabet. But I've got a cubic, and we're not learning to solve cubics yet. So that means you're looking for a greatest common factor to take out. Now, not only do I see g's in every single term, but I also see that they're even. So I can factor out a greatest common factor of 2g, and that's going to leave a g squared, a 3g, and a negative 40. Greatest common factor is not going to play into the little Xbox method, but I've even got a shortcut when this number is 1, and I could just read that as factors of 40 whose difference is 3. But maybe we shouldn't do that. First term here, that's a g squared. Next term here, negative 40. B is 3, it's going there. AC is negative 40. So I need factors of 40 that have a sum of 3. I need them to be pretty close. So 8 and 5 is going to work for us. So it needs to multiply to be negative. So one of these two has to be negative. It has to add up to be 3. So 8 plus a negative 5 is 3. So I have a negative 5g and a 8g. Greatest common factor, 8. Greatest common factor, that's a g squared and a negative 5g. That's going to be a g. So I have g plus 8. And in this direction, a g and a negative 5. And I still have this greatest common factor. It needs to come down. So this Xbox method only took into account the quadratic, not the greatest common factor, but the 2g, the greatest common factor, is part of the complete factorization. Bring down the equals 0 and use the zero product rule. Now there are 3 here. The zero product rule works for more than just 2 products or 2 factors. So you're going to go to g equals 0, divide by 2, and you get g equals 0. G plus 8 equals 0. You're going to subtract 8 from both sides and get g equals negative 8. Set g minus 5 equal to 0, and you get g equals 5. So 3 answers, 0, negative 8, and 5. Couple more. We've got a greatest common factor of 2. Factor it out, and that's going to leave us with a 6p squared plus 5p plus 1 equals 0. Now, this does count, this 2, it counts for the greatest common factor. It will not, however, play into any of our answers. Oh, I've not talked about the fact that our answers have a few different names. They've been mentioned on previous videos, but need to bring it up here. So our answers They're called roots. They're called zeros. And they're called solutions. Roots, zeros, and solutions. Okay, so we need to get our answers, our roots. Factor 6p squared plus 5p plus 1. Alright, magic disappears. So the product of A and C go here. That's going to be 6 times 1 is 6. B goes here. I need two numbers that multiply to be 6 and add up to be 5, and that's going to be 2 and 3. So we are going to have a 2 and a 3 go here, but remember they also get the letter, so a 3p and a 2p. So greatest common factor here is 1. Here is 3p. Here is 2p, and here is 1. So my factors are 3p plus 1, 2p plus 1, and like I said, this 2 plays a part in the complete factorization. It will, however, not give you an extra 0. Because if you set 2 equal to 0, that doesn't mean x equals 2 or x equals 0. That's just false. You set 3p plus 1 equal to 0. You subtract 1 from both sides. You divide by 3. And we get negative 1/3 as an answer. Our last one is we're going to set 2p plus 1 equal to 0. Subtract 1 from both sides. Divide by 2. And we get p equals negative 1/2. So two answers, negative 1/3 and negative 1/2. And if you ever wondered how many answers you should be looking out for, see how that's second degree? 2 answers to look out for. Doesn't mean there will always be 3 that you're going to be able to find. Let me go back and show you that here we had a third degree. We had 3 answers. Second degree, we had 2 answers. Where were they? X equals 3/2, x equals negative 4. So you're going to look for as many answers as the highest power in the equation. So we're looking for 2 answers in this one. Let's see. We're going to go x and x. Oh, got a little ahead of myself. There's no greatest common factor to factor out. We have a product AC of 1 times 20 is 20. We have B is negative 10. And if we do the factor pairs of 20, that'd be 1 and 20, 2 and 10, no 3s, 4 and 5, and that's it. Now, they have to have the same signs because I got a positive 20, so they have to add up to be 10. So the sum of these are 21, 12, and 9. None of them add up to be 10, let alone negative 10. If I did get a 10, and I just have, like, say, negative whatever that number was, negative whatever that number was. So that's not the problem. The problem is this doesn't factor. So no real roots. Okay, that's a new one. In the last section when it said no, it's not factorable. Here you say there are no real roots. What are roots? Well, roots are just another way of saying no real answers. Doesn't mean there aren't answers, just means there are no real answers. And we'll get towards that right at the end of the year.